And speaking of bad endings, let's go ahead and move on to our second story. Now, our second story is an interactive adventure. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 4. 1 and 4 will decide your fate. We're going to travel the world, and we're going to look at some unique female sex monsters. Now, got your number? Write it down, and then throw it away, because I'm sure you'll remember any number between 1 and 4. But we are now going to travel around. We are going to meet these lovely maidens of madness. First off, we are going to Dominican Republic. So, sexy salsa music. That's actually the theme song for something. Anyways, sexy salsa music. So, we're in Dominican Republic. We got sexy salsa music. We got sweet, sweet, beautiful women. We're walking through the mountains of the Dominican Republic. You got your walking stick. You got your backpack. You got your map. You're not Dora, but you are walking through the Dominican Republic. And it's dark. The moon is crusted over the mountains. And in the faint, beautiful moonlight, the jungle... They have jungles down there, right? The jungles down there are just completely illuminated. And you see a beautiful woman standing in what's the thing? The big circle where there's no trees. You see her standing in a big circle where there's a clearing. You see her standing in a clearing. This woman is a little bit shorter than the average adult woman. That's not the thing that catches your eye, though. Her skin is gold. So a little short woman with golden skin standing underneath the moonlight. And you're like, damn, I hit the jackpot. And if you picked number 2, you did hit the jackpot because we are talking about the Ciguapa. The Ciguapa is a forest mountain spirit cryptid. It's really weird how these all blend together. But it is a beautiful woman that you can meet in the mountainous regions. And you'd think, well, why wouldn't I want to meet a tiny little gold woman who's hanging around naked in a clearing? Well, if you pick number 2, you approach her, your hands glide over her shiny golden body, and then she turns to you and she looks you in the eyes, and you feel nothing but passion for this woman. You begin to make sweet, sweet love. The mountains themselves shake with your passionate lovemaking. And then her fingers dig into the flesh of your stomach. Rip all your intestines out. And before you can even come, before you can even finalize it, you're leaking more than that. You're leaking tons of bodily fluids all over the jungle. It's a huge mess. And she's laughing as she's bathing in your blood. And she goes, if you picked number 2, this is you. Your friends, you picked number 2, so you're toast, but you hope that your friends could get some vengeance for you. With the Ciguapa, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but the Ciguapa has a trick. Her feet are on backwards. So it's hard to track her. Not impossible. You figure if you're looking for someone with backwards feet, just follow the trail backwards. But anyways, she runs off into the mountains, another victim of her cold, cruel hands. You're dead if you pick number 2. These are all supposedly real, by the way. I'm not just making these up, but these are local legends. And they're interesting because you'll start to see some bizarre connections between them. Now we're going to Central America. So we're going a little bit farther south. We are in Central America. I don't know what type of music they have down there. I'm sure it's some variation of salsa with lots of horns. What? I remember once I wondered, why does Mexican music have so many horns? Because the horns are not an indigenous instrument to Mexico. Like, what is up with horns in Mexican restaurants? It's overpowering. And it actually was like this, it was the Germans. But it was basically like they were imported over, and they're like, hey, it's so bizarre. There are more I swear, there are more horns in Mexican music than there are in like big band, brass band stuff. It's outrageous how many horns. And I'm thinking, what were the actual indigenous instruments to Mexico? It wasn't brass horns. It wasn't the trumpet, but they're everywhere. But anyways, that's an aside. We're in Central America now. It's super, super loud horns blaring everywhere you walk. Now, you're walking down a road, and there's a river next to it. And you see a beautiful woman washing her hair. And you're like, that's odd. But at the same time, she is damn sexy. And you see her from the back. She has the shapeliest body you've ever seen. You're just immediately attracted to this woman. And you don't know why. It's almost like a siren's call this woman has. She's sitting by the edge of the water. She's washing her hair. She kind of flips it back and plays with it. And the water just drips off her long black hair onto her. Now you realize naked body. She turns to you and says, "Come with me. Come with me into the jungle." And you can't resist. You grab her hand, like so many other people have in Central America before. Long-standing legend of this person, or creature. You grab her hand and she leads you into the jungle. And right when you get to that place in the jungle, what's it called? No, I'm just joking. Right when you get to a clearing in the jungle, you start making sweet, passionate love like you've never experienced before. And right at the height of excitement, her face begins to shift and churn and deform into the face of a horse. And she goes, "If you picked number 4, we're going all the way." And she just starts riding you. You should think you're riding the horse. No, she's riding you, a big old horse face. And that's not the problem. You figure, her body, the rest of her body's still like a hot woman. She has a horse face, no big deal. But the sight of her horse face actually drives men mad. The reports in the area are men being found by rivers, and they're out of their mind. They're like super coked out. They can't think of anything. They're just totally crazy. And the idea is they are being taken by these creatures called the Sihuanaba. Beautiful women. They're always described as beautiful women who at the moment of climax either turn into a horse face or a skull face. And if it was my money, I would much rather bang a chick with a horse face than a chick with a skull. That's a tough one, actually. Oral's out of the question with either one of them. It's all teeth. But again, as long as the body's still like in 8-9 territory, it's good. Their face can be pretty jacked up as long as everything else is in working order. But these guys don't have that option. They totally go mad. And if you pick number 4, you're locked in an insane asylum for the rest of your life. And every time you fall asleep, you imagine a big drooling horse face sitting over you as it's straight up riding you. Now, at least if you pick number 4, you did get off, and you're only insane. The first guy, if you pick number 2, guys, sorry, you died and you didn't even get to... You died of basically permanent blue balls. But we're going to go to a few more places here. Because these legends are everywhere. These legends are really everywhere. We're going, but now we're just going South America. So now we're just going to go a little bit farther south. We're in South America now. This one, we have to go to a little more exotic places. This creature exists. This creature is actually kind of a hippie chick. Because she lives in untouched landscapes, virgin woods, beautiful jungles that haven't been cut down yet in South America, mountainous regions that are unexplored. And she actually, the first 2 are just horny chicks that want to like kill you or drive you crazy. But this one actually has a goal, a dream. She went to community college. She got her environmental studies degree. And she ran off into, that's not actually her real backstory. She actually has a real backstory. But this creature, this woman, has a mission. And so you're walking along the jungle, and this one, you are actually a hunter. You're a hunter, and you're going out, and you're just looking for some tapirs to shoot. You want to get some pelts, and you want to play with their big old funny-looking noses. But you need to shoot them first, because otherwise they'll squish you. So you're hunting around in the jungle. You see a beautiful woman. Now, you don't know about your other 2 buddies. You don't know about number 2 and number 4, who are already dead and insane. You just know that you're looking at this beautiful woman. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're kind of high from eating all that tapir meat. It is quite psychedelic. And here's this woman, naked in the middle of the jungle. And you just need a little human comfort. Now, this one is known as the Patasola. Now, the Patasola actually is one of the most versatile ones. She can shapeshift. So she can't just shapeshift from a beautiful woman to the form that you're going to end up banging in a second, but she can turn into stuff like a giant frog or a dog and stuff like that. Now, if you're trying to seduce dudes, I don't think being a giant frog is probably the best option, because the frog's probably the least sexy creature of all. Even snakes are sexier than frogs, but she can take those shapes. But when she wants to really sink her teeth into a man, literally, she is the beautiful woman. And it's her job, her victim set is lumberjacks, hunters, loggers, people who are intruding on nature. They're all men. She doesn't attack women at all. So like I said, community college, environmental studies major. She's very, very man-hating. And right when you get her, right when you're like, oh yeah, she's so beautiful, and you're just right up in that, this beautiful chick that you're banging in the middle of the jungle, dead tapirs everywhere because you shot him, she begins to revert to her real form. She's described as having one leg, one breast, bulging eyes, cat-like fangs that she uses to drink your blood out. All of that stuff, as weird as it is far more believable than what I'm about to read you. She's described as having cookie-like hair. I have never, ever seen hair in my life that goes, it reminds me of cookies. I have no idea what the phrase cookie-like hair means. I don't know if it's some sort of South American thing that's a common descriptor, but what in the world is cookie-like hair? Is it crumbly? Does it have chocolate chips in it? Is it round? Is it not? Those are two things that are completely unrelated. Hair is long and skinny. Cookies are, at the very least, not any of those things. I could imagine if someone told me how the universe ends and outside the universe is nothing. There's no void, there's no darkness, it's simply nothing, nothing exists. I can understand that concept far more than I can understand the term cookie-like hair. It's blowing my mind. What does that even mean? I think if I saw a creature with cookie-like hair, I would lose my mind. Forget the horse face, forget the skull. I would be looking at like the butthole of Cthulhu. I would be looking at something that is so incomprehensible to me if my mind could perceive both cookies and hair at the same time. This one doesn't drive you mad, though. She just sucks your blood out, which seems like a bit of a downer, but as her teeth, as her cat-like fangs are shoving their way into her neck, you hear her whisper, "If you pick number 1, this is you." And you're getting like cookie crumbs all over your face, and your mind is just racing. You're like, where are these cookie crumbs coming from? She has an origin story, though. Apparently, she was this total, like, cruel woman in town that everyone hated. So one day they conspired to trick her up to go up to the jungle, and they chopped her leg off and left her there to die, and then she became this creature. I don't know why that backstory exists. You think she would be some, like, environmentalist who went out looking for something and a gorilla ripped her legs off or something? I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense. If you were cruel and your leg got chopped off, don't think you're going to go then to preserve... I don't think you're going to become Captain Planet. I don't remember that being part of that origin story. Captain Planet was a dick for a while, and then they mutilated him, and then he became a superhero. Quite an odd origin story for her, actually, like her motivations. But we got 1, we got 2, we got 4, so you're thinking, I picked number 3, where are we going? Now, this is where we get interesting. So, we went to Dominican Republic, we went to Central America, we went to South America. Now we're going to Southeast Asia. Vietnam, Korea, all that stuff. So, and of course, there's stories all over the world about sirens and succubi and killer women. So this isn't restricted to any areas, but this has a bizarre connection. This one's a little weird. So if you pick number 3, you're walking through Southeast Asia. Bunch of trumpet music, really loud horns, salsa music, because you have your Walkman on and you're listening to a tape that your buddy sent you from Mexico before he mysteriously disappeared. But you're walking through Vietnam. Just walking through the entire country of Vietnam. You're walking through a town. And you notice people are a little nervous. And it's not just because you're an outsider, but because they recently had a funeral and a whole lot of bad luck. You see, in Southeast Asia, there's this creature known as the Churel. And it is created when a woman dies of what's called grossly unsatisfied desires. Now, when I first read that, I'm thinking she didn't get banged enough. But that's just, I think that's the way my mind works. Basically, it means that the way that it's normally put is they had work left to do. And in this case, if a woman dies during childbirth or dies less than 12 days after childbirth, she becomes a churel. Sometimes baby girls can become churels because they don't get to live their life and the mother obviously wasn't able to raise the baby, so they become a churel. They become a spirit of vengeance. But after totally mutilating all the people in their house, they then wander out into the wilderness and prey on strangers, prey on men. Same thing. Beautiful young woman seducing you over. Come here, number 3. Come here. It's okay, number 3, come to me. And you can't resist. She has that bit of that siren's call thing that we also see all over the world. She grabs you passionately, pulls you into the jungle, bangs you. You do get to complete this. You get your rocks off multiple times, just over and over and over, every position you can think of, with this dead mom. You don't know she's dead, though. But still, you're banging a dead mom, basically. And then, the next morning, the sun comes up, and you're like, oh man, that was good. My back really hurts. That must have been awesome. Wait a second. What? I'm an old man. She bangs you until you become Benjamin Button. She bangs you until she sucks all your life force out and you become an old man. You're having reports in these villages of these young men going out late at night in the jungle. And they're coming back and they're like 80 years old. And they're like, oh, my back, everything. I don't understand what this is like. And the people are like, oh, you banged a churl, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, maybe a little bit. I thought I would only get like 30 years older, but I just kept going. So this one doesn't kill you, but it actually like rapidly ages you, which is kind of worse, really, if you think about it. Because it's going to shorten your lifespan, but you go from being like 30 to 90 in a night. You're going to have a lot of catching up to do on episodes of Matlock. Like, you don't have much, and you don't have much longer to live anyways. So it's almost like a twofold, like she's just totally being a dick. And when you're banging her, she becomes old too. She gets saggy breasts, black tongue. Not saying all old people have black tongues, but she has saggy breasts, a black tongue, rough lips. You imagine those little sandpaper lips rubbing all over yours. Big old pot belly. Claws. Not a lot of elderly people have claws either. And very specific on this point, she has long pubic hair. My question to you, person who came up with this myth, how long does pubic hair have to be before it's described as long? Because generally, I'll be like, she didn't shave, but I'm not necessarily going to call that long pubic hair. When I think long pubic hair, I'm thinking down to the knees. How long is this corpse's pubic hair? I mean, can you start braiding it? Is it like Chewbacca down there? Is it like ZZ Top hanging out down there? Like, how long is it? I need some specification, but not visual specification. Just let me know, mythologist of Southeast Asia. So, this one has one other trait that they all have the thing of their being out in the wilderness, seducing young men, leading them off to their death. And that really, that's kind of a universal thing. And a lot of people think that these legends become a thing because they're stories to get young men not to dig around in the woods. Like they're saying, don't go off in the woods too far. You might run into a teddy bear picnic, and you might also bang a chick to death. And at first people are like, well, I like the first part of that sentence. You didn't have to say the last 2 words, but they think that these stories were old warnings saying the woods are dangerous, I don't believe you. The woods are dangerous, I don't believe you. And then finally they created these myths and legends. And mythologists also think that these legends were created to keep men faithful to their wives. Because your wife doesn't have super long pubic hair and a pot belly, and your wife doesn't have a horse face, so bang her. Don't bang these mutant creatures. If you see a hot woman out, standing by the side of the street, it's probably a monster. So just go home and bang your wife. So they think that that's why these legends have come about. But what mythologists haven't been able to answer, what sociologists haven't been able to answer, this is bizarre. The Churel in Southeast Asia has backwards feet, so you can't track it. Just like the first cryptid we talked about. the Ciguapa in Dominican Republic. There was no cross-contamination when these two stories had came up on different parts of the globe. They do not know how these stories have such a bizarre detail that's exactly the same. It could be chance. It could be totally random that both of these cryptids, or ghosts, or however you want to classify them, have that same detail. Totally random. Or it could be that in some way they're based on something. It's a very, very small detail to be shared. And if someone tells a Bigfoot story in one part of the world, when we talk about Bigfoot in the US and people talk about Bigfoots in the Himalayas, people go, oh, they share all these characteristics. It's probably real. It's probably this real sighting. But we do have that cross-contamination. These stories had no cross-contamination, and they have this detail that seems minor at first, but the fact that it's spread across oceans and time periods and civilizations, and they have a killer woman who has sex with you, who can shapeshift and has backwards feet, it makes you think maybe there's something to this. Now, all these cryptids hunt in the wilderness. And I think at the time that these myths were being created, that's where they would hunt. But today, if these creatures are real, they're going to hunt to the clubs. They're going to hunt downtown. They're going to go anywhere where young men go who are horny and looking for some action. All the other tricks are the same. Seduce them. Get them someplace where no one else can see them. And feed. Are there really killer female shape-shifting cryptids out there? Probably not. But the next time a girl way out of your league starts hitting on you, better check her feet. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.